This is the Creative Market Free Goods Roundup for the week of December 28th, 2015. So we have 6 free goods this week, and they are all free this week only. So if you see something you like in this video, be sure to check out the description of this video where you will find a link to download it. So first up here is snow overlays. So this is a really cool winter themed item because it's a bunch of different snow overlays to place on top of your images or designs or even illustrations, however you want to use these. And they provide them in Photoshop format shown here, as well as PNG format with a black background, and then a PNG format with a transparent background. So I think the transparent background PNG will probably be more useful for you because then you can easily overlay it on top of stuff, but the black background ones are there in case you want to use those. And if I go to image size, this one's 3000 by 2000 pixels, so it's plenty big for pretty much anything on the web that you'll want to use these on. So very quickly here, I threw an image inside this Photoshop document so you can see how it looks when you're actually applying the snow on top of the images. So this image was pulled from unsplash.com, which is a really great resource for royalty-free images, and I think this mountain image is a pretty good example of an image that these snow overlays will work pretty well on. So there's 20 snow overlays in total, and I'll just turn on and off some of these different overlays so you can see how they look. So as you can tell, for the most part they are pretty subdued, but there are ones like this that have some much more in-your-face snow, so if you want it to be a bit more apparent, you can certainly use ones like this, and I think this looks really good and quite realistic on this particular image. So a good job on the creator's part of making a fairly subtle effect that also looks fairly natural and realistic. And of course, different images and different contrasts of your images will make these snow patterns look either better or worse depending on what kind of image you have. So like this snow, for example, is going to look good on an image that's a bit more dark perhaps and a little bit more sharp, where some of the ones above, like this one right here in particular, was so soft and faded. It works really well with this kind of soft and faded image. But I'll just keep on scrolling down through a lot of these different options here, but this should give you a pretty good example of the different snow options that they have inside this pack. Like I said before, they look pretty darn realistic and natural, at least if you're pairing it carefully with the image that you are using. So take the time and find the snow effect that looks best on the image that you're using. But in this holiday season, I think this pack might come in really handy for a lot of people that are trying to add a bit of winter flair to their design work. But that's it for this pack. I think I might have missed a few of the different snow options in there, but this should give you a pretty good idea of what you can expect here. So if you like these and you think you'll have some use for these, just be sure to grab this pack this week while it's still free. Next up is Flat Style Resume. So this cover letter and resume combination comes in a bunch of different formats, including InDesign, CS4 and 5, and then one for 6+, as well as Microsoft Word, PDF, and Photoshop. So I have the Photoshop versions opened up here in Photoshop to show, just because I don't have to download all the fonts for these, but those other options are also available for you to use if you want to go in and do that. And also very quickly, they do include a bunch of different free social icons in different colors to match the different colors of these cover letters and resume templates. So feel free to use these free social icons that are provided in Illustrator, EPS, as well as InDesign format in case you want to go in there and use these. And they do include these cover letters, portfolios like this one right here, and then resumes in a bunch of different colors, but I'm just going to show this blue one as an example, but feel free to check out the items page if you want to see all the different colors that are included. But the layouts throughout all these are the same, so I don't think it's necessary to cover each different color of these. So as you can see right here, these are nice and simply laid out with a large header section on this particular one, which is the cover letter. Plenty of room to write your cover letter, and then all your contact information on the left-hand column right here, so a very simple 2-column layout. And all the content in this is fully live and easy to edit, so you can go in and just select a block of type. In this case, I don't have this font installed, so it'll probably freak out and change that font. But once you install the appropriate font for this, you can go in there and change all this. So it's very easy just to copy and paste your information in here if you want to do that, or just go ahead and write it inside this template if you want to work that way instead. And as you can tell in this Photoshop document, each of the different sections is nicely labeled in a folder that's called what it is. So the header is on its own layer right here. The sidebar is on its own layer. The letter itself is on its own layer. So it should be very easy to figure out where everything is. And also if you wanted to customize stuff, you can figure out where things are, like this background. You could open that up and then change the color of, for instance, this top bar. If you want to go in and do that, you're certainly welcome to customize these that little bit more, but they do include a bunch of different colors, so be sure to check them out first in case one of those matches what you want to do. So this is the portfolio one, which is a little bit different than other templates for resumes and cover letters I've seen before. I haven't seen a portfolio section in there, but they use smart object layers inside here. So if you go to portfolio images in this folder and double click on that, this is where you would paste your image in and then just save and close it, and it would automatically update inside here. Of course, I would recommend using an actual portfolio website page that you could go and link people off to when you submit your portfolio. But this is kind of an interesting way just to give them a little bit of a glimpse into what you do, or a good first look, so they'll have something right away to see what you do without the need to go to your website. But I would say expand upon this, and do take the time too to write a little bit about each one of these different images so the person viewing them does know what's going on. I think that's a good idea on this template creator's part. And here is the resume, a very nice and clean layout overall. There's a spot to put your photo if you want to go in there and do that. Otherwise, you could just remove that and then bump this type up a little bit. There is your contact information as well as different online spots, education, and references. You don't have to include references if you don't want to, unless it's specifically required based on the post or the job application form you're filling out. I tend to leave that off until I am requested to give someone that. And then there is a spot for employment as well, although something that I might change a little bit on this is it doesn't give you too much room to explain your specific job duties at the jobs. So although it gives a title and then a location of the company, you might want to try to rearrange this a little bit, or add a secondary page that will allow you to better explain your specific roles and duties at that job, since sometimes a specific title, like let's say graphic designer, might not fully encompass your job or your roles at that job, because it's really hard for any singular title to encompass a design job in general. At least in my experience, it's been pretty tough to do that, so that might be worth expanding upon if you want to go in there and do that. But a very clean set of templates here for your resume, cover letter, and then also a portfolio page, which is a little bit different but an interesting idea. So if you like these and you like the layout of these different templates, and also remember there are a bunch of different colors if you want to use those instead, be sure to pick this one up this week while it's still free, and good luck on the job hunt. Next we have Handdrawn Coffee Shop Logo Creator. So this is a very complete pack of vintage or hand-drawn style coffee logos. So everything you see on this page is included, and they also include a bonus font shown right here that has a hand-drawn style as well. So there's a lot going on in this particular pack. They also include this stuff as PNGs, but I think if you want to get the most use out of this, you're really going to want to go in there and use the Illustrator or EPS file, because it'll be much easier for you to customize and resize as you see fit. So first up here are these different patterns. So there's two different patterns, one that has some water coming out of a jar right here into some coffee style cups, and then this one right here, which is a bunch of different coffee cups as well. So if I select one of these and just make this window a little bit bigger, you can tell the pattern goes ahead and expands to be as big as it needs to be. And if I want to make that a little bit easier to see, you would just go in and extend the background out a little bit more so you can see these patterns. But it's cool that they did include two seamless patterns right off the bat. And over here we have a kind of create your own thing, just letting you know like you can use all these different elements to create your own coffee shop logo. And then there's a bunch of different dividing elements right here that have a floral style, very hand-drawn looking in their appearance. And it's also worth noting that if you were to go in here, this might be locked, this layer is locked, but you can go in and pull, for example, this textured background right here and use just that on a project if that's something you want to do, or remove it from here if you want to see these without that particular background, that vector texture background. But I think it's a pretty cool one. I think they did a nice job on that. So that's kind of a hidden bonus in here if you just unlock those layers and use that on its own. And below that we have a bunch of different wreaths that you could go in and use as you see fit. You don't have to use these as part of a logo. Some of these will be really nice just on their own as a stylistic element, because they have a really cool style and you can tell quite a bit of work went into making these. But if you want to combine these into a custom logo that you're making, feel free to do that. And right here there are some examples of pre-made logos, although if I can get the type here, you can see that this type is fully outlined. So what I might suggest doing is just right-clicking and ungrouping this, and then deleting the type once you're able to get to just the type, and then replacing that with your own type in a font of your choice, or using this provided font that they gave away for free with this pack. So this font is used in this pack some of the time, and some of the time they are using a different styled font, but feel free to use whatever font you think will work best on these different pre-made layouts. And also feel free to swap out these different elements as you see fit by just ungrouping them, and then you could use a different mug in a different spot. If I can do this pretty quick here, what I'll do is take out this one right here and just move this guy, not the background, but the coffee cup right here, and just drag that over there. So that's a slight difference that you go in and customize, and as you saw, that only takes a few seconds to do that. But very quickly, I'll go over this included font. So it does include both lowercase as well as uppercase letters in a very loose hand-drawn style that gives it a handmade aesthetic if you're looking for something like that. And they also include all the numbers 0 through 9 and a pretty small but good enough selection of special characters. If I go to type and glyphs up at the top here, you can tell it includes most of the basic things that you'll need for an English-based sentence or phrase, but nothing too much further outside of that. So right here is Free Goods Roundup typed up into a sentence, pretty loose kerning overall, but with the hand-drawn font, I think that's totally fine, and it does a good job of making this look hand-drawn because the line weights really vary quite a bit. Like look at this D to the S in the word goods, where the D has a lot more weight than the S, which makes it look a little bit more imperfect and more hand-drawn because of it. So if you like this font, this is also included inside of here for you to use. But that's it for this pack. There's a lot of stuff included in this pack that you go in and use as you see fit, either for logos or just random designs and illustrations as well. I don't think these elements have to be limited to the idea of a logo because they are so fun, they are so vibrant, and have just a lot of life to them that should give them a pretty wide variety of different uses. So if you like what you see right here and you think you'll have some use for it, just be sure to grab this pack this week while it's still free. Next up is Mountain Vintage Badges. So this is a collection of 6 different outdoor themed logos, and they provide them in Photoshop, Illustrator, EPS, as well as PDF formats. And they are using free fonts, and they do include a link to download those free fonts. So be sure to do that before you use this so you can go in and edit all these fonts as you see fit. I have it opened up inside Photoshop, so I don't have to actually download all those fonts myself. But I'd probably recommend doing it inside of Illustrator if you want to actually go in and use these on a bunch of different projects, just so they will be vector and be really nice and resizable for you in the future. Although really quickly, these are actually using shape files inside Photoshop, so these should be able to be expanded as large as you need as well. So just use whatever program I guess you feel most comfortable with. But the overall style of this is pretty cool. I'll actually stay out here at 100% so they don't look too blurry. But they have a very strong and impactful look, and since they're all using mountains as the basic idea of a theme, it really lends itself to an outdoor themed logo. So whether that's a sports like a hiking and climbing, or even something a bit different that's more nature themed like exploring or sightseeing or looking for different animals outside, whatever you might be doing in the outdoors, I think these will cover it pretty darn well. And some of them, like this one in the upper left, just have a really nice and impactful look to them that I think would translate to a lot of different things very well. So I could see this being a pretty cool sticker on something if you wanted to use it for something like that, where ones like this logo in the center would transition pretty nice into a t-shirt, or actually pretty much any of these I think would work pretty nice on a t-shirt. You could use this one in the bottom center here on a mug or something similar, because they are so bold, they are so impactful, you won't have too many issues with smaller lines and that kind of stuff. But at least in the Photoshop file, everything's nicely grouped into different folders, so each of these different logos is in its own folder. But really the main thing you're going to want to worry about inside any of these is just the type files, where you can go in and change this word mountain to be something else. I don't have this font installed so it looks wrong, but you can change it really fast just as I did right here. And you also might want to consider setting the type to be center justified, so that way once you center the type, which this is kind of close, not perfect, but if I change this again, then you can tell it's automatically centered the second time I change it. I know that's not perfect, but just doing this pretty quick here. So then in the future, if you want to continue modifying these, that'll allow you to work just a tiny bit faster. But a very cool pack of 6 different outdoor themed logos right here, all that have a very striking and bold visual style that I actually quite like. So if you like what you see right here and you think you might have some use for these, just be sure to grab this pack this week while it's still free. Next up is Glowist, which is a font. This font is provided in OpenType font format, and I have it opened up inside Illustrator here to show it. And I should note they do include this bonus set of floral ornaments in Illustrator format as well that go along fairly nicely with the font itself, because they have that sort of a vintage appearance to them that the font also has. So if you want some additional ornaments to place around your font or build around whatever design you're doing with the font, feel free to use these free included ornaments as well. I think they're pretty cool. But onto the font itself, which I actually really like because it has a lot of style to it and it's very convincing in the way it pulls off a vintage aesthetic. So as you can tell, both the lowercase and uppercase letters are either small caps when you type in lowercase or normal caps as you type in uppercase. And they are a serif font that has a very rough or weathered looking edge to it that gives it a very vintage appearance, and I think it pulls it off really nicely, especially when you start typing out complete sentences. So here are the uppercase letters that have some really nice flourishes to them. These have quite a bit of style, especially when you start looking at some of these X, Y's, and Z's. The way the kind of swooshing motion of some of the arms here go up. I think it's a pretty cool look overall. And they do include all the numbers 0 through 9, and they do match very nicely with the letters above. And then quite a few different special characters on this one as well. So if I highlight this, go to type, and then glyphs near the top here, and I'll go scroll down so you can see that there are a bunch of different accented letters. So if you're using a Latin-based language that does not happen to be English, you are probably pretty well covered with this font and should be good to go. So that is a nice bonus to have in here as well. And now here's the part where I typed up free goods roundup into a sentence so you can get a good idea of how this actually looks typed out. I would go in and custom kern this just a little bit, but at first glance this is fairly close to how you're going to want to have it when it's actually typed up. You might want to tighten up some stuff to make it a little bit more closely matched, but it's up to you if you really want to go in there and do that or not. But overall it does a very convincing job of pulling off that vintage aesthetic because these look nice and worn, but also they pull off kind of a nice soft look of a vintage or older letter form that was printed on a book and had a little bit of ink bleeding or something similar to that I think just does a nice job of helping communicate the fact that this is going after that vintage aesthetic. So overall a very cool font here that also includes those bonus ornaments. So if you like those, be sure to use those on your designs using this font as well. But if you like this font and you have some projects in mind where this one might come in really handy, just be sure to pick it up this week. And last up is Barcelona responsive WordPress theme. This is a fully responsive theme built for the WordPress content management system, and at first look it looks like a fairly simplistic blog because the overall layout has a very clear focus on the content presented, but it actually has a lot more going on to it than might meet the eye at first. So if I go to the first post right here and click it, you can tell that the page starts out with a really large image for the header image right here that is a full width of the page, which gives us a very striking look. And then as I continue to scroll down here, you can tell that it just slowly replaces this image up at the top with the type below it. So that's a pretty cool way to handle the way they implemented the images on the individual posts that make it a very vibrant, almost magazine-like appearance, like a cover image on a magazine, something like that, as you are greeted by the initial part of the post. And then below that, it's a bit more standard with that type, and then a comment section below that, which is always a huge bonus of using the WordPress content management system. The comment section is really friendly and easy to use. And below that we have different sections for images on Pinterest, Instagram, Flickr, and then also a recent tweets. So social media is also covered at the bottom of these posts. If I click on this gallery tab right here, it brings me to this page, which is just an example of an image gallery post. You will see that there are little buttons here that you can click to transition through slides. They're a little bit harder to see on really dark images because they are very dark buttons. And I would guess that you could probably set this to automatically scroll between images, or maybe it does that automatically. I haven't actually seen that happen when I was using this though. There's also a shortcode section that gives you a bunch of different options for how you can lay out and present your information inside this particular theme. It's a fairly feature-rich theme, so be sure to check this out and kind of check out some of the special things you can do to make sure that your stuff looks the way that you hope it will end up looking. And there are also a bunch of different icons included inside of this. This appears to be the Font Awesome icon system, which is a very complete, as you can see, online way of handling different icons on your website. So you should be very covered for pretty much any icon use you will need using this built-in section of different icons right here. And then there's a contact page, which is extremely straightforward: name, email, subject, and message. Not too much more to say there, but that's it for this particular theme. Like I said before, it's a really good example of a content first blog theme. As you can tell, it's very easy to see what the content is and how to get to it. And then it also shows stuff like categories and time of post and areas to leave a comment as well. But when you click on a specific page, it brings up these really vibrant images of those particular pages that help bring your post to life a little bit more in a very magazine style format. So if you're on the hunt for a WordPress theme that's all about the content and also has a bit of a magazine flair to it, then this one might be a perfect one for you. Just be sure to grab it this week while it's still free. So that's it for this week's free goods, and do remember they are free this week only. So if you saw something you liked when you watched this video, be sure to check out the description below and you will find a link to download each one of these 6 different free items. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please like and favorite, and if you want to see this video every week, please subscribe. This video is released every Monday to let you know it's free this week on Creative Market. Thank you for watching.